So if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that we spent a lot of time on Georgia State University campus before the election talking to students about why they should vote for President Trump instead of Kamala Harris. But now we're here after the election to talk to students about what do they think so far regarding President Trump's job. Is it good? Is it bad? Let's go and find out. All right, so what do you think about President Trump's job so far? Do you agree with it? Do you think he's making America great again, or is he making America worse?
I think he's making America worse.
Terrible.
I believe it is getting worse.
I think that it's neutral and it's in between.
Okay, he's done a lot of things in the last month. Is there anything in particular that you can say, okay, that is making America worse?
When he tried to pull the education system or something like that, the FAFSA.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. Are you
The
talking about
financial
getting
aid?
rid of the Department of Education?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was kind of crazy because that is kind of what that's how we keep going in the United States. We learn about, and then trying to get rid of learning about African American history in schools.
President Trump's done that.
He tried.
He's done a lot of things in the last month. Is there anything in particular that you can say, okay, this is making America worse?
I feel like everything in office that he's done, I don't think he's done anything beneficial. Everything is also blamed on DI. We've been having planes fall out the sky. Like, it feels like every day. Like, I feel like everything has just gotten worse.
You can phone a friend if you want.
I agree. I just feel like a lot of the things that he's, implementing is kind of like raising the questions of what is the purpose, like what is necessarily the benefit, and it's not seeming like, there's a clear necessary benefit. It really just seems like, it's blatant racism.
Okay.
With a lot of the things, or like classism, like, discrimination.
Okay.
And I feel like he's stuck in his own world, his own bubble of what he wants to do, and he's not reflecting on how this affects the majority of the American people. And why the fuck do you give a billionaire who hasn't been elected, who doesn't even know how the government works, all this access to people's information? I'm talking about Elon Musk. What? It makes no sense.
So Elon Musk has access to our information?
Yeah. Did you
What
know
kind of
that?
information?
Apparently he has access to Social Security.
So the head of that department, which is the treasurer, already came out and said that he only has read access. So he doesn't actually have information.
Okay.
Like your Social Security information doesn't have my Social Security information, doesn't have access to that kind of
Did
stuff.
you hear that it was approved to give him a grant?
Like what kind of grant?
I'm not sure.
Because
I
he
was
does
watching
work with NASA and the Department of Defense for the space rocket stuff, but that was 2023 under Biden's
Yeah.
administration.
Okay, but I was told that he was given a grant to do something. I don't know what it was.
So I haven't really noticed a specific change except for the fact that he wants to change the Constitution already,
Okay.
which as president you really can't do that.
What is he doing in particular to try and change the Constitution?
The Birthright Act, he wants to abolish that, but it's a part of the Constitution, and he basically swore an oath not to break the Constitution when he got back in the office. So the fact that day one that you wanted to do that, it's kind of like you already broke your oath. Why are you still president?
I think that it's neutral and it's in between. He uses a lot of tactics that scare people in the beginning but end up having positive results. While I say that, he does have a lot of negative influence over senators and Congress, and he doesn't really have, people don't have fond opinions of him. So it's hard to see his end goal when you really haven't seen what he's doing and seen the progress that he's made.
What are some positive things that he's done so far?
So he had the border problem, of course, that he was trying to cover, and he did that by doing the tariffs with Canada, China, and I forget the other country. But
Mexico.
he only did Mexico. He did the tariffs to scare the countries, not scare them, but intimidate them into sending their own troops to the border so that we didn't have to use more U.S. troops.
And even as far as Canada going to designate the cartels as terrorist organizations, which they weren't able to do diplomatically, so that's why they threatened to impose those tariffs, and we watched them get right in line after that.
Yeah.
The federal Department of Education, but then every state has its own Department of Education as well. He wants to get rid of the federal one because instead of giving money to the federal one, he wants to give it more to Georgia, to California State Department, because he believes they know the states how to better disperse that money locally to Georgia State, Georgia Tech, and stuff like that. Wouldn't you be in favor of something like that?
Does a one state have enough money for that though? Like especially when people go to colleges in different states. So it's like me. I came from Michigan. Would I still get financial aid in Georgia if I'm a Michigan resident?
Absolutely. And you would have more ability to access that because the state departments will have even more money. They want to take the money from the federal department and disperse it all around the state departments.
Okay, so they want to give the money to the states.
Yeah, they believe that the states can actually solve the problem better than the federal government. And I would say, doesn't that make sense? Somebody in D.C. doesn't know what's going on here in Georgia State University, right?
Yeah, has no clue.
But what I will say is like, why? Like, why does he have all these this political influence? Like, why was he able to give like money to people to vote for Trump? Like, what is it? Like, you're not supposed to be able to do that.
I agree with that. We should definitely get rid of money in politics. But the problem is that unfortunately both sides do that. Like Bill Gates did a similar type of campaign. George Soros did a similar type of campaign. Yeah, so I agree with you. We should get rid of money in politics so we don't have that issue anymore, right? Yeah, it happens across the aisle. Let me ask you this. Trump's done a lot of things in the last month. Is there anything in particular that you can say, okay, this is making America worse? Is it that the Doge thing relating to Elon Musk? Is that it or something else?
I don't have all the information for it, but what I will say is that my mom, she was a special ed teacher for about 20 years, give or take.
Shout out to her.
And she currently works with this organization that helps people with disabilities become like better engaging like civilians, like helps get them hired, helps them like get social skills to like better, interact in the world. And the organization that she worked with, they lost their money.
Were they relying on federal funding?
They were.
Okay. Are they a state organization like here in Georgia or some other state?
I think they're a state organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
So without the federal government giving them certain grants and stuff like that, the state can still give them the grants. And the state can actually, I think, know the issue locally much better than the federal government. Makes sense, right?
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, almost a broken ankle. At least you didn't break.
And I feel like as well as taking away the funding for literally everything, people that live off, like survive off benefits from welfare, taking away those benefits, I feel like that's detrimental. And he's really just honestly making the rich way richer and the poor to suffer. And I feel like now we have the biggest like homeless population that we've ever seen.
Can I ask you, has he done any of that, like taking benefits away from like SNAP, for example, or Medicare or Medicaid?
He put a pause on it.
On Medicaid and Social Security services and SNAP?
He put on the pause for the SNAP benefits. It was other benefits as well. I don't remember the whole list, but I know it was a list of benefits that he paused for, I forgot how long, but he paused them.
I think he paused.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's having a baby.
My brother's girlfriend, she literally just applied. She's having a baby, and she just applied, and they took away those benefits. And
Which
now
benefits?
She has to pay for, what was it called? It starts with a W. WIC. Yeah, WIC. And she couldn't.
I know for sure.
Yeah, it was two things, and I think her food stamps as well.
And that is because of what President Trump did?
Yes.
Okay. So in reality, the SNAP program still exists. All your state and local level organizations still exist, like, child benefits and all this various stuff. There's no federal freeze right now on any federal programs that are necessary for Americans. There's a freeze on foreign aid, specifically by an organization called USAID, that, sends $2.2 million of your taxpayer money to Colombia to subsidize drag queen shows. Do you think that's good for your friend or for yourself to do that kind of stuff? No, right? Would you rather that $2.2 million be invested in American organizations that can benefit you and your friends?
Yes.
That's actually what is happening right now. There's a lot of misinformation out there right now that SNAP and all these various American necessary programs have been cut, but that hasn't happened whatsoever. So the Supreme Court one time ruled that President Biden trying to forgive all student loan debt was violating the Constitution. I wouldn't say that then President Biden was violating the Constitution. He was just challenging the Constitution. Isn't that the same thing that's happening right now with the 14th Amendment, that the administration is trying to challenge the birthright citizenship, the jurisdiction clause in the 14th Amendment?
Well, I don't know much about Joe Biden with breaking the Constitution, because what
Well, it was ruled unconstitutional, him attempting to do a complete loan forgiveness without the legislature. So they said this is unconstitutional. But I wouldn't say that that is quite literally him violating the Constitution and stuff like that and going against his oath of office, because he was simply challenging the Constitution, which is what happens all the time.
The common goal.
And how do you think we can actually achieve that, a more unified America, especially now that we're in power, right? The right's in power. How can we reach across that aisle and say, hey, we're just trying to make America great again. You may disagree with how we do this, but that's at least our common goal here.
I think we could do that by focusing on just respect of the president and respect of the office in general. No matter who's in office, I try to respect them. When Biden was in office, I respected Biden. I saw his plans, I see what he's doing, and I'm going to do the same thing with Trump as well.
So would you be in favor of taking the money that the federal government has for let's say, the Department of Education and bringing it more to the state departments? Because every state has a state department education, right? And maybe they can take care of the situation much better if they have more money instead of the federal government dispersing it around. Sounds like a pretty good idea, right?
It does. That sounds like we just talked about that in American government. That's what would be called a categorical grant.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, sometimes states don't do what they're supposed to do.
I agree with that. So in that case, I would say there are necessary programs that should now be cut, like providing grants to programs like that for special needs, right, to make sure that they can adapt better to, the school or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
I agree.
the beautiful thing about that's exactly what the right or President Trump is currently doing with Elon Musk. By having a department that looks at where the government is efficient and not efficient, they're able to invest that money much better. And that's all that's happening right now, is that we are able to look at where the funds are and determine if that's efficient or could they be allocated somewhere else better.
Oh.
It's pretty good stuff, right?
It is pretty good stuff.
So when you break it down like that, it's kind of like,
Yeah, yes,
no political bias here. It's just the facts. And
Right, just the facts. And that's something that I see. Well, you know what? My mom, she watches MSNBC, and I get most of my information from her. So I guess to be, a better citizen, I should probably,
indulge
do
in both.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's no clue. So if we can remove those bureaucrats, stop paying their salaries and wasting our taxpayer money on that, and give all that money to state departments, to employees there, so they can figure out what's better for Georgia State, Georgia Tech, Emory, that's a good thing, right?
I mean, it could
You can still
be.
hate Trump, but
It
you
could
can
be.
still say it's a good idea, right?
I mean, it's still an idea. I don't know what all the outcomes of that would be. So it's I can't really say yes or no.
Let's look at what's happening. We've had
Based on what you said, I would say it seems good. But without all of the information, I can't say I'm gung-ho on
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. Yeah, and I like that. We're having this in good faith, right? I'll also say this, is that we've had a federal Department of Education for 50 years now or so, and our literacy rates have only gotten worse. We literally can't read in the United States. Fourth graders aren't reading. They don't know how to do math and stuff like that. And we've had a Department of Education to try and solve that. So something isn't working. We got to fix it, right?
Yeah.
And I think the fix is, again, giving the money to the states so they can figure out for themselves how to better use that money, especially if it's your money, right? Because they take money from you.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. You want to say anything else?
Kamala.
Yeah, I just along with all the things, and I feel like where his money is going, where not his money, because this is America, but where he's putting the funds needs to go in far other places, and I feel like America is suffering in a plethora of ways.
If he started to do that, and I'll ask you this question, both of you guys, if he started to do that, if he started to stop sending certain funds, like the $2.2 million to Colombia for drag queen shows, that's ridiculous, and reverted that funds to America for necessary programs like that, would you like that? Is that a good thing?
I would say it's
Yeah.
logically thinking.
Okay, sounds good.
That was what I did when I was in the military. I tended to do that, and sometimes I lean more towards the conservative side. But yeah,
Awesome.
I get it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the good conversation. Seriously, I appreciate it. That's
No
all it's
problem.
about. Thank you so much.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks, you too. And if you want to find this stuff, it's on Breakaway USA.
Breakaway
We're on
USA.
YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all that
Okay.
stuff.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good one.